The Cincinnati Reds will come to the plate in this orderly fashion. Willie Taveras, Jerry Hairston, Joey Votto's at first. Brandon Phillips was spectacular in the field last night. Jay Bruce in right. Adam Rosales is at third base. Chris Dickerson is in left field. Ramon Hernandez is all the way down in the 8th spot, and Edinson Volquez hits 9th.
First ever appearance for Chris Volstad against the Cincinnati Reds, and we've talked a little bit about the last few outings of Chris's. Last time out, no decision at Wrigley Field, but he went 7 innings, gave up just 3 hits. Unfortunately, back-to-back home runs, and not really mistake pitches, but Milton Bradley and Mike Fontenot went back-to-back. No walks, 5 strikeouts in that game, and it's one thing that Chris has done so well: keep the ball in the strike zone, and he's kept the ball down. When you do that, the defense comes into play, and there's a look at the defense. Hermida, Meziga, and Cody Ross in the Marlins outfield. Bonifacio and Cantu at the corners. Usual suspects up the middle, and John Baker behind the plate.
Marlins got a great start from Josh Johnson. The Reds got a great start from Aaron Harang last night, and pitching will be one of the topics tonight. Defense certainly our focus on an email Tuesday night. Willie Taveras leads it off, and the speedster takes strike 1. Eric Cooper's calling balls and strikes. Volstad at 2-0, and the ERA about 2.5, 2.67. That would be strike 2.
I think the one thing both Josh Johnson and Chris Volstad have been able to do, they've been able to keep their peace of mind when pitching well and not getting a no decision and not getting a win. Sometimes that affects young pitchers, but we've talked about Chris at 22. He's a mature 22.
Fastball got in on him, a soft fly ball. Hermida loping over, and he's there, and he makes the catch. Nice running catch by Hermida. Mikusuki brings you our weather. Come play our way. How about this weather? 82 degrees. Not a lot of humidity. On the warm side. And not particularly windy tonight here at Dolphin Stadium. Jerry Hairston Jr. now stands in, and Hairston's in the lineup after the injury last night to former Marlin Alex Gonzalez, a strained oblique.
And then all of a sudden, Dusty Baker, the Reds manager, said, I got to get this guy in the lineup. Last year against the Marlins, he was 15 for 27. Hit over 500 against the Marlins last year.
Baker having trouble. That first fastball, it looked like it surprised Bake. That one popped out of his glove, and it's 2-0. Volstad misses away. Hairston, of course, comes from a great baseball family, a third-generation big leaguer. His grandfather was a star in the Negro Leagues and played in the Major Leagues. His grandfather won a Triple Crown in the Negro Leagues. And that fastball is high and away.
Tell you what, a lot of movement on those fastballs that were not in the strike zone. It's kind of good and bad news, but the ball moving for Chris Volstad.
So Hairston's aboard. Here comes Votto, the Canadian slugger. Votto in last night's ball game had a couple of hits. Everybody had plenty of at-bats in the 14 innings. Votto with a big swing and a foul. And last night, extra innings in the American League and extra innings in the National League are two different animals. And last night was a great example because both managers were swapping guys, making changes, and then all of a sudden extra innings presented itself, and the managers, both of them, had to say, oh, hold on here. They were both rail thin when they got to the extra frames because they had played the game to win the game in the 9 innings, and all of a sudden, you know, in the American League, you don't make all those changes with the pitcher. National League, it gets down to all of a sudden you got one guy left, and once we got to the 14th inning, neither manager had an extra player left.
Yeah, it got to the point where at that time, both Dusty Baker and Freddie Gonzalez, it wasn't as complicated. I don't want to say it's ever easy, but it was easier because they didn't have to worry about making moves because everybody'd been used.
Dusty Baker shaking his head this afternoon when we were talking to him about the schedule. Hairston bluffed and may have slipped. And Volstead misses outside, and it's 2-1.
Ask the Washington Nationals about the schedule after their game today.
Yeah. Where are they headed to?
The Washington Nationals played a 10-10 suspended game. It was rain delays, lasted forever. Now they have to get on a plane. They go to Los Angeles, and they play the Dodgers tomorrow night at Dodger Stadium.
Well, Dusty was just talking about a 2-game series. He said, man, a 2-game series, you can't get anything done in a 2-game series. And then he said, and we don't see you cats until September.
And that's exactly how Dusty said it.
He does. He is, of all the major league managers to talk to, he is one of the most entertaining. Runner goes. So we're going to foul back. So last night, when the Marlins finally got to the 14th with the Reds, these were the scorecards. All the extra players were crossed out. Cantu hit a smash. Votto had him played perfectly. And, of course, the throw allowed Paulino to rumble on home. Paulino looks like one of those big semis coming down I-95. Chris Volstead working on Votto. Baker wants it up. 2-2. Runner goes. And it's down low. No chance to get Hairston. So Hairston swipes second, and now Votto has a chance to drive in the first run of the night.
It's one of the areas that Chris is working on. It's a little slow to the plate. You saw the big jump that Hairston got.
Smacked into left field. Hermida coming over. Hairston got a good jump, and he's going to score. And the Reds are on top 1-0. It's what the stolen base can do for you. It can change the inning.
Yeah, this guy's really locked in, and that pitch was up. That's not where Chris Volstead wants to work. Votto got it on the end of the bat, but he leads the Reds in hits and RBIs, and he just adds to those totals. And he's second in the league in batting, and he's added to that.
He is in a good place.
How about this? He's also second in the National League with runners in scoring position. He's now at 481.
He's just 25. Arrived on the scene last year with a big year. Brandon Phillips now. Volstad's curveball is a strike. It's 0-1. Brandon Phillips showed everybody last night why he not only won a Gold Glove last year, but also won the Fielding Bible Award as the best fielding second baseman in all of baseball, not just National League, American League. And John DeHaan, the author of the Fielding Bible, will be our guest in a couple of innings.
Well, I know I have a couple of questions for John about fielding, and I'm sure our emailers tonight could have some questions too.
These were the winners last year, and you see Phillips now. Orlando Hudson got hurt, and that may have helped Phillips' case, but he's a terrific defender anyways. Rollins was a Gold Glove winner, as was Beltre. I like the fact that they give the award for the best left fielder, center fielder, and right fielder, not just pick an outfielder.
And offense isn't taken into consideration.
Nope.
Just fielding.
Not at all. That one's a foul ball into the Marlins bullpen. Phillips, you used the expression with Adam Rosales last night as a high energy guy. I think Phillips is that way as well, because he not only plays a good second base in terms of the glove and the throws, but an alert second base. Great anticipation, great instincts. Emails are starting to come in. And if nothing happens on this pitch, we'll throw out the ceremonial first email of the night. 0-2 coming. There's a drive into left center field. A Meziga is over. Alfredo's there, and he makes the catch. All right, our first email of the night is from Eric. Do you think the longevity of the game last night had anything to do with the second base umpire not calling interference on Hanley?
Well,
ball gets away, and
it's just one of those little things.
Joey Votto ends up at second base.
Just a little thing that should not happen, because now all of a sudden the Reds get a runner in scoring position. Here's the flip from Uggs, and it's a bad toss. Not even close. Chris Volquez can't get it. And an error is going to be charged to Dan Uggla on just a simple play that should never happen.
Yikes. So E4.
I mean, it's tough to miss the 6'8" Chris Volquez when you're just tossing him a ball from not too far away.
I mean, even Regis could make that throw, and he did last night.
Yeah.
Well, it gives Jay Bruce a chance to hit with the runner in scoring position. Eric's question, do you think since it was the 14th inning that the second base umpire looked past Hanley going out of the base path?
No, I don't think that's the case. I think if we look at it again, which we did, he probably could not have touched the bag with his hand, and you have to. But as you and I both looked at it, the throw from Giannis, he wasn't upended that much. He makes it, look, he has plenty of time, and he makes the throw, and it's possible Hanley could have touched the bag. You know, the more I see it, he could have reached over. It wasn't that bad of a throw, but Daniel Herrera, the pitcher, coming over to cover, it's a tough play for him, and the ball got by him.
I think if Hanley hits him and upends him while he's throwing, then maybe it's a different story. It's a good question, though. I know that the longevity of the game affected both Tommy and I last night, because when we got to the 13th and the 14th inning, we were both out of gas.
And Mike Riley's the second base umpire last night, veteran umpire. He's seen that play many times.
2-2 pitch. Volquez gets a strikeout. A sloppy first inning for the Fish, and the Reds get a run. The Marlins at 15-11, down 1-0 already in this ball game. Emilio Bonifacio at third, John Baker behind the plate, Hanley's at short, Cantu at first, Dan Uggla at second, Hermida out in left, Ross is in right, Meziga on Cinco de Mayo is in center, and Chris Volquez on the mound.
Well, the Marlins saw Edinson Volquez a couple of times last year. Each time he went 6 innings. He walked 2 one game, walked 5 the other. He won those games. He has great stuff. You can see the start that he's off to. 3 good pitches, good live fastball, good arm action on his changeup, and a good breaking ball.
So Bonifacio and Volquez, who had a coming out party last year as a starter with the Reds, fires a strike, and it's 0-1. Bonifacio, a busy night last night and a good night last night. He had 3 hits. That catches the outside corner, and it's 0-2. The challenge for Bonifacio, and we've talked about it from day one. Select strikes, try to get deep in counts, try to walk a little bit more, and put the ball in play on the ground. He was great at it in the first week, struggled for a couple of weeks, and is starting to come back to where he was, but he doesn't identify that. That's a nasty pitch from Volquez.
Well, it's easier for us up here to identify that as a nasty changeup after 2 really good fastballs. There's the arm action. Bottom falls out of it. The fastballs were 91, 92. It changeup right around 80 miles an hour.
If you want someone to compare him to, Pedro Martinez, a young Pedro Martinez. In fact, that one of the nicknames of Volquez growing up in the Dominican Republic, that of Little Pedro.
I'm sure many have had that nickname as kids coming up in the Dominican.
His teammate had it as well, Johnny Cueto. And they both have the live fastball, and they throw that circle change, the changeup that makes Pedro so good. And it's Mario Soto, the former Cincinnati Red. He's the guy that taught these two, Volquez and Cueto, that circle change. Baker takes inside. There's Bake last night, 1 for 4.
Read an interesting story this spring. Ryan Tucker, young right-hander with the Marlins. When he was a kid, he used to hang out at minor league games for the Cucamonga Quakes, Texas affiliate, where Volquez was pitching. Well, he hooked up, Ryan Tucker and his dad hooked up with Volquez, who showed him that changeup at a Denny's, the Denny's restaurant. That's after
right.
A game. And so here it is, passed on from Pedro Martinez to Edinson Volquez to Ryan Tucker.
At a Denny's.
At a Denny's, yeah.
In Rancho Cucamonga.
Rancho Cucamonga. Didn't Torrey Hunter sign a big contract at Denny's?
Here's the 2-2 pitch. It's inside.
That's where we're missing the boat. We need to go.
Well, there's a line in there somewhere about the Marlins giving up 5 grand slams this year, but 3-2 coming to Baker. We have to keep this show on the rails, Tommy. We got to keep it rolling along. Baker smokes that ball to the left. Actually, it was in the minor leagues where Volquez really turned his career around. With the Rangers, they were not real happy with Volquez and his progress. He had been up in the big leagues for parts of 2 seasons.
Not good numbers.
And they sat him down and they said, you know what? You're going to start this year in single A. And until you can show us that you've got some discipline and you can change your act, we're not going to promote you. At the knees, Baker thought it was low.
You don't see John Baker argue too often. We'll have to see that again. Chris Dickerson, Taveras, and Bruce in the outfield. Adam Rosales getting a chance to play at third with Harrison and Phillips up the middle. Joey Votto, the first baseman. Veteran Ramon Hernandez behind the plate. Let's see if Hernandez helped this call. Well, you know, it's not that bad. Yeah, I mean, it's borderline.
Well, I'm sure Baker, when he gets back out there, is going to say, okay, I better get that pitch for my pitcher all night long. Here's Hanley now. Hanley and Volquez teammates on the World Baseball Classic team, the ill-fated Dominican team.
I think you can see what the Marlins hitters are in for tonight. This guy's a tough pitcher. Made the All-Star team last year.
Yes, he did. And deservedly so. I mean, his first 8 starts last year, 1 earned run or less in all of those first 8 starts, and that tied a major league record. I think the last to do it was Mike Norris back
the
in
Oakland Athletics.
Yeah, the Billy Ball days in Oakland.
The complete game, Mike Norris.
Hanley hits a high pop, shallow center. Phillips is out, Taveras is in, and he makes the catch. And Volquez mows down the fish in the first. Special events, save money, provide them with an unforgettable experience at a Marlins game. Call 305-626-SAVE and ask about upcoming special events in May, including Youth Baseball and Softball Day, Teacher Appreciation Night, Scout Sleepover Night, and more. Last night would have been perfect for Scout Sleepover Night.
They could have seen a lot of baseball.
Here's Rosales. He takes inside. Adam Rosales, Chris Dickerson, Ramon Hernandez against Chris Volstad in the second. Reds up 1-0. On an email Tuesday, Gary from Boynton Beach. Hey, Rich and Tommy, can you show that Ameziga play again? I wasn't able to see it the first time you showed it. Thanks in advance. You know, Gary, we will bring that out only on special occasions.
Yeah, but Gary may be saying this is Cinco de Mayo. That is a special occasion.
And we are having John Dohan on, the Fielding Bible defensive guru. I wonder if John has seen it. So stick around, Gary. Maybe you'll see that tonight. Bonifacio flips it on over to first in time. And there's an out. Hey, Rich and Tommy, I'm a huge Dodger fan. Been so ever since '88 and the famous Kirk Gibson home run, which Regis Philbin actually referenced last night.
Yeah.
Have a question. Hope you can get it on email Tuesday. What are your feelings on my Dodgers this year? How do they stack up against the rest of baseball?
Good question. I think, first of all, they're off to a fantastic start. They're 11-0 at home. They've set a Major League record starting the season 11-0 at home. I think, number one, they're the strength of that division. I don't think it's the strongest of divisions. I think the Giants have a couple of good pitchers. Their offense is so-so. San Diego's fading. The Rockies are 10-14. Arizona could give them a little competition, but I think the Dodgers should win that National League West.
Going away. Volstad, good changeup. That's from Eddie in Miami. Volstad misses down low. One-two in the dirt. If you saw Marlins Live, you saw Craig Minervini talking about Tim Cousins, the roving catching instructor for the Fish. He is here, and he had Baker and Paulino in the dungeon working on blocking and receiving skills before the ball game. Now that's the pitch, Tommy, right there.
There you go.
Remember the one Baker talked about and argued about? And I'm sure he said something to Cooper to the effect of, I want that for my pitcher too.
It might even have been a little bit lower. So that's why, that's a great example of why when you're a catcher, you can question a call, but you can't go berserk because you want your pitcher to get that same call. So right now, a nice rapport going between Eric Cooper and John Baker.
You have to develop a good relationship with the umpires. I mean, if you're a catcher, it's so important for your pitcher, for your at-bats, because if you get on the wrong side of a couple of umpires, they can make your life miserable.
By the way, Chris has gotten in a nice groove here. His two-seamers down. He's thrown some good change-ups in this inning. Better location in this inning.
Dennis from Miami wants to know, now that Logan Kensing is a national, what will happen to the exploits of Logan and JJ? Will there be a new player on the team named to the squad?
Boy, that's a good question. We've had many staff meetings concerning just that, and we've yet to come up with an answer.
1-2 the count with 2 outs. Volstad working on Ramon Hernandez. Speaking of umpires, Stephen and Michelle from Miami. Gentlemen, good evening. What an exciting win last night. Do you guys have any idea if Bill Hahn will be umpiring any Marlins games in the near future? We missed the mustache.
I don't think we've seen. Have we seen
No.
Bill Hahn this year?
No, because we always focus intently on the mustache. We'd remember that one. That one, Volstad, I think, thought he would let it go as if it would be an easier play for Hanley, and now he's kicking himself.
Yeah, every once in a while we'll see a pitcher do that, and you say, boy, that's good reactions by the pitcher because he doesn't deflect it. But Chris starts to go, and then look at, he can see when he turns around, he sees that Hanley's not there. And I think he could have made that play, and he purposely let it go thinking that Hanley would be there. And you could see his reaction too.
Soft line drive over Uggla's head into right field. It nestles in, and Volquez has himself a hit. And so now for Volstad, that little hesitation of going after that ground ball, he's looking at first and second.
Yeah, and all of a sudden now back to the top of the order. He has 2 out, but yeah, the little hesitation, the pitcher getting a bloop base hit, and now he's in a little jam. Volquez, his first hit of the year.
Billy Hatcher was a World Series hero for the Reds, that Lou Piniella-led team.
Billy Hatcher also had a huge home run for the Astros in that '86 championship series against the Mets.
That was one of the great postseason series that nobody really remembers. And that was a terrific series. Chopper to short, on to second in time to get Volquez. Jorge Cantu's coming up. Day. Toyota moving forward by Aflac. We've got you under our wing by SunTrust, featuring online solutions to help your business stay on solid ground. Live solid, bank solid, SunTrust. Sun-kissed. That's what South Florida has been today. Lots of sun, lots of baseball last night. 14 innings before the Marlins beat the Reds. 2-game series. Now, I guess it almost feels like a 3-game series now. This being
with
game 2.
Well, we had 2 7th-inning stretches last night. And what a week, Rich, and what a day today, and what a week it's going to be for Regis down on Miami Beach at the Fountain Blue.
At the Fountain Blue. And I suspect down there they're probably celebrating Cinco de Mayo, as well as you've seen many hats and get-ups already in the ballpark. Volquez takes aim at Cantu with Uggla and Hermida to follow. And Volquez misses down low with a fastball. 25 is Volquez, and he was dynamite his last time out against Houston. 8 one-hit shutout innings and a 3-0 win against the Astros. Pours in a 94-mile-an-hour strike. They call him Little Pedro, but he's got Pedro's old fastball.
Yeah, he has the old fastball. Yeah, in that game against Houston, just one walk. When he has that kind of control, he can be tough.
Breaking ball. Cantu reaches out and sends it out to center field. The Reds are much speedier in the outfield this year. Guys like Taveras and Dickerson. Gone are the Ken Griffey Jr.'s and the Adam Dunns. Here is Uggla now with Hermida to follow. Just a reminder, we'll have the author of the Fielding Bible on here in an inning or two. Next half inning. Top of the third. So get your defense questions ready on the emails. Uggla takes a fastball. I'm sure Dan Uggla will be the subject in reading the Fielding Bible. There's a little section on Uggla, and I guess to summarize, he's not as bad as his All-Star game appearance made him out to be. Uggla smacks it into left. Dive. Did he get it? That's a catch.
Dan Uggla needs to get a break here sooner or later. Another well-hit ball.
Uggla's been spraying line drives and warning track shots all over the National League. That's not a catch.
Oh, that is not a catch.
I didn't think he caught it to begin with.
That was a trap. The tough play for an umpire in that case, and the third base umpire makes that call, is Chuck Merriweather, is to get out there as quickly as possible so he can see that call. But when the ball is hit sharply as it was by Dan Uggla, it's hard to get more than 5-10 feet closer to left field. I'm sure when Chuck sees that, he'll say, yep, that's one that I didn't get right.
There are some that would say take instant replay one step further.
No, the end games would be 5 hours.
we had that last night.
Can you imagine a Red Sox-Yankees game if you used instant replay on all that stuff?
Here's the 1-1.
Speaking of which, the Yankees have yet to beat the Red Sox this year, and the Red Sox off to a 4-0 early lead in the second inning. Beckett going for the Sox.
Mets and Braves are underway and scoreless in the bottom of the second. Here it's 1-0 Cincinnati. Hermida waiting a 1-2 pitch from Volquez, who has that deadly changeup, but he fires a fastball outside. Hard to believe his ERA is 4.45, as well as he's pitched at times this year.
Well, his first outing of the year was a rough one. Gave up 5 runs, 4 earned runs against the Mets, 4 1/3 innings. Gave up 6 runs in his next outing in Milwaukee. So his first 2 starts of the year were a little shaky. Then he started to settle in and throw better.
He has started twice against the Marlins, and he beat them both times. Those are the last 3. Look at the 8 shutout innings his last time out against Houston. And there is the circle change. We will talk defense. Tommy will put his right hand and take the oath on the Fielding Bible when we return. We're good. We like your book, The Fielding Bible, because it's a chance for us to appreciate some of the guys we see around the league who are great defenders. We saw Brandon Phillips make 3 terrific plays here last night. Grounded to third. Bonifacio picks it up, fires it over to first in time, and we'll start at third base for the Marlins. Have you seen enough of Emilio Bonifacio to get an idea of what kind of defender he is?
Well, I haven't seen much, but I can tell you he is off to a good start this year. His defense at third base has saved 3 runs for Florida so far this year, and that's a big improvement over Jorge Cantu last year, who was a -8 over the course of the year. So I think that's going to be an improved defensive spot for the Marlins.
And John, Tommy Hutton here with Cantu now over at first base, where he's an improvement over Mike Jacobs. That's one of the reasons the Marlins, I think, are a little better defensive club this year.
Well, exactly. One of the things we did in the book, The Fielding Bible, and this is the second volume, we did it 3 years ago as well, is we converted the defensive numbers into runs saved. So we're trying to figure out, all right, how many runs has this player cost or saved the team with his defense? And Mike Jacobs cost the Marlins 23 runs with his defense. So it's clearly addition by subtraction by not having Mike Jacobs over at first base.
The team that really, I think, was the poster child for the defensive improvement last year, and you were quoted a lot in the Sports Illustrated baseball preview, are the Tampa Bay Rays, and we've talked about them. They're on our network as well. The Rays went from the worst team defensive history in 07 to an outstanding team in 08. That must, for a guy like that appreciates and keeps all of these great defensive stats, they must have been a fascinating team to cover.
Well, it was exceptionally interesting because offensively they were about the same. They scored, I think, actually 8 fewer runs over the course of the season. But then on defense, when you count their pitching and their defense, they had 270 runs less allowed. And using our run saved analysis, we're basically crediting 100 of those 270 runs to the defense out there. 170 was due to pitching and 100 runs due to defense. So that's a huge improvement from one season to the next, and it's equivalent to about 10 wins. There's a rule of thumb that says every 10 runs is about a win. So 100 runs saved. Their defense saved them 10 runs.
And John, in particular, point out a couple of players in particular with the Rays who helped that cause.
Well, of course, there's always Carl Crawford, who's one of the best defensive, in fact, the best defensive left fielder in baseball. He won our Fielding Bible Award. It's an award we give out to one player at each position each year. So he was one of the best players for the Tampa Bay Rays last year.
Brandon Phillips stands in with Joey Votto at first. Votto a walk, a 1-0 Cincinnati lead. We're going to dip into our email bag. It's Email Tuesday. Votto is running. Baker is throwing. And that ball's going to skip into center field. That'll be an E2 in next year's edition of the Fielding Bible. And Votto ends up at third base.
Which brings up a question about base stealers and catchers and percentage of throwing runners out. How much do you take into factor the pitcher's delivery? Because so many times we see slow deliveries to the plate.
Well, absolutely. It's ironic that catchers are evaluated so much based on their throwing arm, and pitcher defense, holding runners, has nothing to do with the Gold Glove award. Greg Maddux for years and years was very poor at holding runners, yet he kept winning Gold Gloves. And we estimate that pitchers are more responsible. In fact, we accredit them with 65% responsibility for holding runners at first, and only give catchers 35% responsibility.
I'm glad you're here to explain all of this to us, because as we look through your book, some of these formulas to measure things, Tommy and I, neither of us were very good at math, so it's confusing, and it's refreshing to hear someone talk about some of these stats.
That's a great analogy about Greg Maddux, guys would run on Maddux all the time.
So, I mean, the guys that are the best fielding pitchers in the game right now, well, I guess Kenny Rogers would be right up there.
Well, he was a poster child because he could do both. He could not only field his position, but he held runners on incredibly. I think he only had 3 stolen base attempts against him last year. And just to give you an example, Gavin Floyd with the White Sox allowed 37 stolen bases. So the extreme between pitchers holding runners and how well they do it compared to others, much more extreme than how catchers can throw them out. So, pitchers holding runners is much more important in the running game than how the catcher can throw.
Ground ball through the drawn-in infield, and the throwing error is big because it brought the infield in, and Phillips' ground ball sneaks into left field. And the Marlins, who have made 2 errors tonight, have now down right now 2-0.
Yeah, and exactly right. That error brought the runner over to third. And I think with maybe a different pitcher on the mound, you might play the infield back early in the game. But the way Volquez is pitching, you know it might be a low-scoring game and tough to score runs. So Freddie brought the infield in, but Phillips found the hole.
Hey, John, here's an email question from Dan from Fish Stripes. Last night, Hanley Ramirez made a spectacular leaping catch to snare what would have been a hit in the left center. Are there any defensive metrics that would be able to take that into account? It would be a shame for plays like that to be judged equally as a liner right to him, since the movement is in a third dimension. Boy, Dan getting very good with that question.
I like that. That's very good, third dimension. One of the things we do keep track of how well players do on balls hit in the air, both liners and pop-ups. And one of the best in baseball is Ryan Theriot with the Cubs. But we also keep track of good fielding plays and misplays. So if a player makes an outstanding play that, in a situation that otherwise would look like it would be a hit, we give him a good fielding play. And we have 27 different categories of good fielding plays and 54 different categories of defensive misplays.
Who keeps track of all these things? I mean, who judges every game? Is there somebody at the game that has got pen and paper and is watching the game and does that?
Well, we have our video scouts. They're reviewing a video of a game. We actually look through a game multiple times. And so one time we might be looking through the game to keep track of pitch information, and another time we'll keep track of the defensive fielding plays. And so each time a play is made, our guys are trained to recognize, all right, that was a defensive misplay because he overthrew the cutoff man and allowed that runner to go from first to second. Doesn't get an error, so we call it a defensive misplay.
John Baker throwing out Brandon Phillips here.
Well, we saw the Cubs run wild on the Marlins. The Reds got the scouting report. They're trying the same, but this time, good throw by John Baker to get Phillips.
Chris Volstad now, the 1-1 pitch. Bruce fouls it off. Beef in Coral Springs has this question for you, John. Was wondering, what's more important for a defensive player, footwork or arm strength, or both? And do you measure those?
We don't specifically measure either of those, but obviously both of them are very important. And it's interesting how it can vary. Alfonso Soriano of the Cubs is extremely interesting because he's known for his speed, and despite his speed, he's not known to be a good left fielder. But one thing that he does do well.
Hold on, John. Hold that thought. Volstead just struck out Jay Bruce. John DeWan of the Fielding Bible. We'll talk more defense when we return. Pick up the Fielding Bible and you leaf through it. There are some players that you might learn some things about. John, we'll talk about 4 guys, and let's start with Torrey Hunter, who's won 8 straight Gold Gloves, but he doesn't exactly grade out like that in your book, does he?
Well, 3 years ago when I did the first edition of the Fielding Bible, I said Torrey Hunter was the absolute best center fielder in baseball, bar none. Andrew Jones was close, but Torrey Hunter was the best. Well, over the last 3 years, since we've updated our numbers, he's really graded out as pretty much average. The 3 years previous to these past 3 years, his plus minus, and that's the number of plays he makes above average, he was about 50 plus 55, and in the last 3 years he was actually about -9. So we think of Torrey Hunter as more of an average center fielder, that he's lost a step, and that his reputation is actually kind of in the past, and he's still winning Gold Gloves based on that past reputation, but we don't see him as one of the best.
Well, I'm glad that Regis Philbin is not here. Ow, Cody Ross gets hit by that changeup. I'm glad that Regis is not here tonight. He was here last night, but he's a big Yankee fan. He might be stunned to hear that Derek Jeter is not the best shortstop in baseball by far, huh?
Well, in fact, it turns out that his plus-minus numbers, number of plays made relative to the average shortstop, way below average, in the -50 range over the last 3 years. And he is just, there's a simple problem with Derek Jeter. He does not have the arm strength compared to other shortstops in baseball. And what happens there is he's forced to play a little more shallow, and he's good on the slow rollers, but he doesn't cover as much ground because he's playing a little more shallow, and balls hit into the hole, he has a tough time making that throw. That's why he has that patented jump throw. It allows him to release the ball more quickly, but it doesn't have the same velocity to get over the first to get as many runners as over shortstop.
Now, there are guys through history that when they lose a step are able to make it up by positioning. Cal Ripken Jr. comes to mind as that. In your book, I was reading the section on Mr. Utley, Chase Utley, and how Utley has been able to do that. Doesn't have the best range in terms of quickness, but he seems to make up for it. How do you factor in positioning into your defensive equation?
Well, Chase Utley is an absolute interesting case, and I call what he does ultra positioning.
Oh, Cody Ross got stepped on as he tried to get back to first, and he's tagged out. The Reds throwing behind Ross, who went in hand first, and it looked like he got his hand caught on the spike of Brandon Phillips.
Well, he gets a big lead. Phillips sneaks in behind him and kind of blocks him off and steps on his hand. He's not able to get to the bag. So a snap throw by Ramon Hernandez, a good throw. Cody was caught off guard. A good play by Brandon Phillips. I don't know if that factors into the Fielding Bible, but a good play with him sneaking in behind the runner.
Well, absolutely. He would get a good play on that. And Ramon Hernandez is interesting because he had a very poor year last year. He seemed to have lost a lot of focus, made a lot of misplays. But I think he's starting to come around again this year for Cincinnati.
Yeah, you can see the Marlins are looking at the hand of Ross, which is cut as he got under the spike of Phillips. Line shot. Brandon Phillips with a leaping catch. That will add to his plus-minus rankings. John, can you hang in there for another half inning or so?
Sure.
All right. John DeWan of the Fielding Bible. The Reds right now are doing it defensively. Last night, Tommy, he took a couple hits away and made some spectacular plays behind the bag.
Yeah, he showed great range, great quickness, flipped that ball, backhanded out of his glove. Just some amazing plays, and you know why he's had the best fielding percentage. the last couple of years.
John Dewan of the Fielding Bible. We were talking about Chase Utley and how he positions himself. How do you compare an Utley to a guy like Phillips who has such great range?
Well, Brandon Phillips is probably the most athletically gifted second baseman in baseball. He shows it, and our numbers show him as a plus 17 last year in terms of plays made above average. However, we had Chase Utley at plus 37, or actually plus 46. And it was incredible. What he does is what I call ultra positioning. And against lefties, he's way over towards first base because of the way they pull the ball. And against righties, he's generally way over towards second. And he does a lot of studying of the of hitter charts where they tend to hit the ball. And as a result, he gets to a lot more balls than other second basemen, including Phillips.
All right, let's focus on some Marlins individually. Let's start with the guy in center field. How do you measure the worth of an Alfredo Amezaga, who is a plus center fielder, and when we've seen him, he's a plus shortstop?
Well, he's basically a plus at pretty much any position he plays. If you could put him at every position at the end of the game, when you need the defense, he would be great. But at center field, he has been tremendous. He's over his career. And it's not even a full season. It's close. It's a little more than a full season. He's been plus 31 runs saved for his defense. That's a lot of runs saved by one position. And then in limited time at shortstop, I mean, here's a guy that could be a Gold Glove shortstop. He's been plus 10 runs saved in not even a half a season of play at shortstop. So no matter where he plays, he's a plus at second when he's played there. It's just a guy that you'd love to see him at every position if he could.
It's nice to hear someone like you say that, because we say it,
and people say, well, you're Marlins broadcasters.
Right.
But Freddie Gonzalez says it. He sees it firsthand.
And the amazing thing, John, talking about Amezaga, he had never played center field in his life until 2006, I believe. And the Marlins needed somebody to play center. He volunteered out at Wrigley Field. Let's talk about Hanley Ramirez at shortstop. The Marlins in the offseason were hoping that Hanley could take a step forward like other young shortstops do as they get older. How has he done this year?
Well, Hanley is, on his way to being the most valuable player in baseball. I mean, the way he hits, it's incredible for a shortstop. And then you add the fact that his fielding is turning around. 2 years ago, in 07, he had a very poor defensive season and cost the Marlins about 27 runs. But he's starting to figure it out. And last year, he actually saved a run defensively. So he's pretty much an average shortstop and a big improvement from the previous year. Last year,
car, truck, or van, who are you going to call? 1-877-MAROONY. By Checkers, Little Place, Big Taste. By Corona, this Cinco de Mayo, be sure to grab some ice-cold Corona or Corona Light. And by Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. Emilio Bonifacio leads it off against Edinson Volquez. Runs up, chops one, and a nice play from behind the plate by Ramon Hernandez to get Bonifacio at first base. It's our last half inning with John Dewan of the Fielding Bible. It's the lightning round. John, quickly, how have the Marlins done defensively this year? Have they taken any steps forward?
Well, they definitely have. And in fact, as a team, they are fifth in baseball with plus 9 runs saved by their defense. And much of that is at shortstop. So you like to see that. You like to see the improvement of Hanley Ramirez and the team as a whole. So fifth in baseball with plus 9 runs saved, tied with the Astros.
Statoftheweek.com, by the way, is the website for John. Statoftheweek.com. And the Fielding Bible you can pick up in any bookstore. We'll keep the lightning round going. Tommy.
Yeah, and John, do you see a team out there that could be the Rays of last year?
Well, I don't know if a team can improve by that much in one season again. I'm sure it's possible, but can it happen in 2 seasons in a row? I don't think so. But last year, the Kansas City Royals were the worst team in baseball at minus 40, and this year so far they're fourth in baseball at plus 10. I'm not sure they can hold on to that, but the Mariners have made a great improvement in the outfield, adding Andy Chavez and Franklin Gutierrez. So their outfield is tremendously improved. And I do like the Marlins. Your team right there. I think they have chance to do a very good job defensively.
All right, lightning round goes to the email bag. Daniel from North Lauderdale, best defender in your opinion ever to play the game?
Oh, that's a tough one. Back about 5 years ago in his heyday, we were tracking Adam Everett with the Houston Astros, and his shortstop play was absolutely incredible. He was coming in at plus 30 and plus 40 every year, and he was tremendous. But you gotta go with Ozzie Smith. There's nobody ever been like Ozzie Smith, so I would take Ozzie Smith at shortstop over anybody at any position.
John Baker at the plate with an out here, and that's a strike. Lightning round, my turn. How do you compare? It's hard to compare hitters by era. What about defenders? How do you compare Ozzie Smith to, say, an Omar Vizquel?
Well, what we can do is there's an excellent organization called Retro Sheet, and they have play-by-play going back in time, and so we're starting to gather that play-by-play information and start to look at how well do players cover their position relative to other positions across the era. So we're still learning that. It's still based on general impression about how good Ozzie Smith is. And we do have some numbers that show it, but nothing like we do these days.
Lightning round, last question.
I'll take this last one. How much do you factor in the turf? Some grasses are thicker. Dolphin Stadium's very fast. How do you factor that in?
It just plays out as, it factors in as to how quick a ball will get through the infield. So right now we're measuring balls as either softly hit, medium hit, or hard hit. But our newest invention this year is our batted ball timer. And so we are keeping track of how long does a batted ball take to reach the fielder. So that will take into account the length of the grass.
Great stuff.
John Dewan, statoftheweek.com is the website, and I don't know if you have a life or not, but you certainly have an incredible amount of information on that website. In the Fielding Bible. Fielding Bible 2 is out. It's got Jimmy Rollins on the cover. We appreciate your time, and this was a lot of fun to finally bounce some of these questions off of you tonight.
Well, thanks so much for having me on the show. When I was doing the book, I didn't have a life. That was all. For months I was working on the book, but now I'm back with my wife and 2 kids.
Here comes the play at the plate, John. And John Baker is out at the plate. Wow. John Baker thrown out on a relay throw coming from the outfield, and the Reds have great defense again tonight. John, thanks again.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. Boy, another great play by the Reds.
Yeah, they just keep coming up with defensive play after defensive play. Strong relay throw. Hernandez, who's been terrific in this ball game, has made some nice plays. Look at how he leans in, puts the tag on, but you have to wonder if John's hand was on the plate. Now, I think he got him. Just a great relay throw to complete that play. Bang, bang at the plate. A solid hit. First hit of the night for the Marlins.
Hanley breaking towards the plate, and Volquez steps off the mound. 8-6-2 on that putout. Cantu's at the plate. Hanley ends up at third base. The Marlins still haven't scored. And the Reds defensively have been splendid tonight. And that pitch misses outside to Cantu.
I'll tell you what, I thought that was a terrific play by Hernandez to get that little high chop from Bonifacio, because if it lands, he does not make the play at first base. Bonifacio beats it out. So Hernandez got out of his crouch quickly and was able to make that play.
Cantu rolls it foul. Now, John promised us when he was going to come on that both teams would play well defensively while he was on, and that was not the case.
No, the Marlins have not played well defensively. They've made a couple of errors, and they've also had a base running mistake.
Cantu at the plate. Hanley's at third, and there are 2 outs here in the 4th. Volquez busts that fastball in on Cantu's hands. That left wrist last night. He tweaked it on a catch and tag play at first.
Nice swing, by the way, from Hanley to shoot that 2-base hit into left center. I think Marlins third base coach Bo Porter is going to be thinking about sending John Baker. And I know in talking with Bo, he'll tell you right or wrong if he felt Bake was going to score, but you almost have to be 100% given the fact that you have Cantu coming up.
Cantu popping up. Hernandez back to the screen, and he has just enough room to make the catch. And the Marlins are still down 2-0. Press the SAP button on your remote or your set. Cookie and Raul appear. Hi, guys.
Hi,
Fellas, how are you?
Hi, Tommy.
We've been talking defense tonight, and the Reds have been outstanding defensively. They've made some tremendous plays, Cookie.
Absolutely. I think that defense means a lot. And when you have pitching and defense, you're going to be in every game. And that's exactly what we have seen from the defense of the Reds yesterday and today. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, especially when you have a guy like this throwing in Edinson Volquez. And Chris Volquez throwing pretty well himself.
Ugla.
Defense.
Buena
Diving
defensa
stop
de
on the
Dan
first.
Ogla para sacar el out.
Nicely done. All right, guys, have a good show.
Defense.
Dan Ugla going far to his left.
The defensive theme continues. How about that? Let's get John Dewan back on the air. He can mark that one down. Terrific play by Dan Ugla, covering some ground, straightening up, and getting the runner at first base.
Now, we don't have John on the phone, but I will read you from the Fielding Bible Ugla's entry. Infamous for his 3-error performance in the All-Star game, Ugla's defense isn't quite as ugly as one would think. He has below-average range and occasionally boots balls at him, but he's good at judging pop-ups, willing to go deep into the outfield to get him, makes more good plays than average second baseman, and his arm allows him to make all the necessary throws. His worst crime might be having a really bad night in an exhibition game. Line shot in the left field. Taveras singles.
And that's true. I mean, this game is such a game of labels. So many people saw that All-Star game, and they'll forever remember Dan Ugla. But we get to see him day in and day out, and that's fun.
And he's good at turning. You know, the other thing that Ugla does that goes unnoticed is he is a good pivot man. He hangs in. He'll take a hit at
he's
second
not going
base.
to bail.
Here's Hairston.
Got to be careful. We've seen the Reds running. Now they got their fastest guy on first base, Willie Taveras.
2 stolen bases and 1 caught stealing for the Reds tonight. And Volstad goes over to first. Emails are stacking up. We apologize we haven't been able to get to all of them. We've had a guest. We've got another guest coming up. Graham Taylor will join us in the next half inning and talk about his start tomorrow night against Atlanta. Swing and a miss by Hairston. And it's 0-1. Reds got a run in the first, got a run in the third. Stolen bases, throwing errors. They have all added up to those 2 runs.
Chris has had to work a little more than Volquez. He's thrown more pitches. Edinson Volquez has thrown just 47. And Chris Volstad's up to 73 right now.
Taveras not running. Gorgeous bunt. Beautiful bunt. And Bonifacio picks it up. Hairston has a bunt single. So the Reds have a couple runners on. The duck arrives. What was the distance from the pitcher's mound to home plate before today's standard at 60 feet 6 inches? I didn't know that there was.
I always thought it was. Well, let's see here between you and me. Do you think it was longer or shorter?
Oh, I'll bet you back in the day it was shorter.
See, I was thinking it was longer.
That's before Tommy John surgery and all of that. I think it's shorter.
Okay, I think longer. So that'll be our entrance to this Aflac trivia question.
Volstad getting a visit from Mark Wiley right now.
Well, with a couple of guys on, and certainly one of them in scoring position, it brings up the guy who leads the major leagues in batting average with runners in scoring position. Joey Votto hitting .481 in those situations.
Votto's RBI single in the first, walked and scored in the third. There you go with runners in scoring position. Hanley on that list. Great speed on the bases for the Reds.
Yeah, and you have to be careful with Taveras. I mean, he can steal third, too. And he's got good speed behind him, as you mentioned, Rich. Two guys who fly out there.
Volstad spins. Remember last night you had the in case of emergency break glass for a different Aflac trivia question? AJ in Cooper City just heard that question. He sent in this one. Ask the crack staff, when is the last time two pitchers with the last name starting with V faced off against each other?
It's a good one. Have to check the matchups that Fernando Valenzuela had over the years.
Maybe he meant Dave Veers. Otto Velez didn't pitch, right?
He was an outfielder. Teammate of Otto's in Toronto.
Yeah, I know. I know. That's why I dropped the Otto Velez.
He was an outfielder.
Oh, Justin Verlander. There's a V.
Yeah.
That one's fouled back. It's a good question from AJ.
Tell you what, Joey Votto, you watch him, and unfortunately a two-game series, but you just see the good at bats he has, the type of swings he takes, stays back on the ball well, not afraid to drive it the other way.
Volstad trying to keep Taveras close at second. Yeah, Votto looks like he is going to have a nice career because he hits lefties well. Takes that fastball. I was talking to him before the ball game about getting signed out of Toronto. He was signed out of high school. His high school was actually called Richview Collegiate Institute. And he didn't play on any national teams. He didn't play on travel teams. But someone saw him in high school and liked him. And the Reds, of course,
that's great scouting right there.
Reds drafted him in the second round in 02, and Votto walks. Bags are loaded. Time to answer the duck. Sounds like an action movie. Answer the duck. All right, I said shorter. You said.
I said longer.
About 45 feet.
So a lot shorter. That's kind of like softball. See, if Regis had thrown from 45 feet, he'd have knocked down Cody Ross with that pitch.
Well, Brandon Phillips coming up. One out. Volstad needs a ground ball. And Phillips is behind in the count 0-1. Phillips RBI single through a drawn-in infield in the third.
Another indication of the type of hitter that Joey Votto is. Just tonight in his 3 at-bats, he's seen 18 pitches. So he's very patient, gets good pitches to hit.
0-2.
This is really key, and it's a tough situation for Chris Volstad. He has this bases loaded situation. He has a possibility for a double play ball, good speed at the plate. But you hate to have the Reds open it up even more because of the way Volquez has been pitching.
Did he go? Nope.
Tried to go upstairs, get him to chase the high fastball, and he held it back.
Baker's on his way out for a visit.
Yeah, a little indecision. It looked like either there was a mix-up or they just weren't quite sure if they were on the same page.
Bases filled with Reds. He again went up with a fastball, and it's 2-2. They couldn't hold it. Stays at 2-2.
You saw when Baker went out there, Volstad had the glove over his mouth. The legend is that Greg Maddux was one of the first to do that. Greg Maddux gave away one of his little secrets the other day at Wrigley Field when he was on air with Len Casper and Bob Brenly. One of the things he used to do in spring training, he would throw a hitter that had hit him pretty well.
2-2 line drive, base hit, right center. This is trouble. The score at least two. Taveras and Hairston score, and the Reds have put 4 on the board. And that man has impacted this brief 2-game series in a variety of ways. Brandon Phillips.
Matt, I think we're seeing a little bit of Brandon Phillips. There's a curveball, but it just stays middle of the plate after missing with a couple of fastballs. Phillips stays back nicely, doesn't try to pull it. That's why he's their cleanup hitter. 3 RBIs tonight. He's a good clutch man. Chris knew he left a pretty good pitch out over the plate for a good hitter.
And he might not be anchored at first base long, although he does give that right side a chance to open up with Bruce at the plate. So what was the secret?
Well, so in spring training, Maddux would throw that hitter just a pitch that he would never throw him during the regular season. So then that hitter would think, hey, he's going to use that pitch during the season. And it would be a pitch. That's why he always had such a high ERA in the spring.
The legend had it. The reason he put the glove over his mouth was that he felt there was a sequence, and I don't know the player or the time, where his catcher came out and they talked about what they were going to throw the hitter, and it might have been Will Clark or someone like that. Apparently he felt he was reading his lips because Clark hit a home run. Marlins get the double play, and Volstad does get out of the inning, but the Reds put 2 more on the board and lead it on a night where Volquez has his good stuff. It's 4-0 Cincinnati. Top in the bottom of the 5th inning. It could have been worse were it not for the help of the Checkers double play of the night.
Boy, this is a thing of beauty, especially for a pitcher. Checkers double play, backhand flip from Dan Uggla over to Hanley Ramirez, and gets Jay Bruce by plenty. But just prior to that, the big hit of Brandon Phillips.
So the Marlins will try to climb out of this 4-0 hole against Volquez, Uggla, Hermida, and Ross. Ugly hit a sinking line drive that was trapped in left field. And so he pops this one up. Phillips is out there, makes the catch. We check in with Craig Minervini. Craig?
Thank you very much, Rich. Jeremy Amita went over to Jim Preston, the hitting coach, and said, what do you notice? The anatomy of a hitting coach and a player, sometimes it goes the other way. But Jeremy, in a slump coming into the game, 0 for 1 tonight, 3 for his last 26. Jim Presley said, what I think I've noticed is your hands too far in. We've got to reload you and get them back a little quicker and let you get on top of the ball. So they worked on it. He actually videotaped batting practice so they can compare it to his swing. And we didn't notice a big difference in a little tape that we looked at. But Presley says no question that his hands were just too close to more of the Marlins spot rather than the back of his shoulder. So he's got to move in the hands back a little bit, help him get on top of the ball. He says he's been under too many pitches of late. Guys?
Something that we will keep our eye on. Hermida behind in the count, 0-2. 0-2 pitch. That's down low.
It's always kind of interesting. I want you to look at that finger. See how that finger, the bottom hand is off the bat? I remember years ago, a scout came up to me and he said, do you always have your finger like that? And I said, yeah, I never thought about it. He said, that's good. It just frees it up. It frees up the swing as you take it through the zone. And you'll watch a lot of hitters and they have that bottom hand finger up.
Almost a diving catch. Hairston knocks it towards the line, and he is flat on his back. Throws his glove down. Thought he should have made the play. Had he made the play, that would have been spectacular.
Yeah, it would have been unbelievable range factor on that. But Jeremy Hermida gets himself a double. A little bit off the end of the bat, he'll certainly take it. Harrison has good speed, got a good jump. Looked like he was going to put it away. I think he thought so, and the ball got away from him, and hustling into second was Hermida with the double.
You know, on second look at that, it's one of those balls where that's an incredibly difficult play. He actually dove a little bit too far.
Yeah, he got to it.
Yeah, he almost you can say this, he overdove. Can you say that?
You can say it.
Might not be right.
And I know what you mean. But I guess you'd have to say he overdived.
He out-kicked his coverage or something.
But that's hard to say.
Marlins trying to get on the board here. Remember, they had Baker thrown out at home plate. And that was back in the fourth. Volquez misses down low. By the way, our crack staff came up with a couple of V versus Vs.
One this year.
Yes, Javier Vasquez has faced Edinson Volquez once and Chris Volstad once.
Vasquez and Volstad this year in Atlanta.
That's why we have
there you go.
A crack staff. Ken Lee is the official wrangler of the staff. Counts 2-1. There's Hermida. Ross was hit by a pitch.
He had a rough sequence. Hit by a pitch and then picked off first and got his finger stepped on.
I don't know if he would have been safe had he not been stepped on, but certainly it stopped him in his tracks as he tried to slide in at first base. And it was Phillips who came up behind him, and in one motion as he caught the ball had stepped on Ross's hand and tagged him out. Three and two. Here's another look.
Look at how quickly Phillips got in behind him. That was the key to the play.
Oh, man, that hurts. Full count. Ross hits the ball to center field, hits it pretty well. Taveras goes back, got turned around, makes the catch. And there's 2 outs. Fish Friday on the 15th. Manny Ramirez and the Dodgers at 7:10. Grab a CBS 4 for $54 pack and play Billy Bingo for your chance to win one of 100 authentic Hanley Ramirez gloves, 1-877. Or visit Marlins.com.
Checked in on Manny Ramirez last night. Dodgers beating the Diamondbacks 7-2. Manny was 2 for 3 with a home run. Hitting .360 with 6 home runs and 18 RBIs.
Now Meziga. Volstad's spot is up next, and Brett Carroll's in the on-deck circle. Actually, that's a euphemism. There is no on-deck circle in this ballpark. Hayden Penn.
Well, there is, but it's over near the dugout. Nobody stands there. See, there it is. But nobody stands there. It's where all the stuff is. The pine tar,
which is actually nice in this ballpark. Sometimes they actually do have circles or little mats out on the grass with all the accoutrements of a hitter. Pine tar, weights, gizmos.
But it's over there.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden.
Kind of hidden.
There's no fungo circles. Remember fungo circles?
Sure. The coaches used to stand in those circles and see the on-deck circles way over here. Yeah, the coaches used to stand. Used to be kind of like right in there, both sides. Now I think they have a covering around the batting cage. A lot of places do.
One and 2 to Alfredo.
Used to have no pepper signs.
Meziga puts it in the air. Out to Taveras, who makes the catch, and the Marlins leave yet another runner out there. Volquez dealing a shutout. Plays. We've been talking defense all night. We'll show you some of the defense from tonight. John Baker with a strong throw there. How about Brandon Phillips? How about the relay throw? 8-6-2. Dan Uggla increasing his range factor. And Land Rover, all year long, Land Rover giving us the extraordinary plays of the game.
You know, a guy who's versatile. We talk so much about Alfredo Amezaga, and he certainly is. Reds fans have Jerry Hairston Jr. He's the same. You can put him in the outfield. You saw that strong relay throw.
How about another Land Rover extraordinary play? Bonifacio. Rosales bid for a base hit.
You know what helps him at third base is his quickness. I mean, he's quick to get to that ball and then pops up with a strong throw. And he has vastly improved since the first week or so of spring training. I was talking to Freddie Gonzalez about this the other day. He was a little worried first week of spring training watching the defense of Emilio, but he has come a long way and been outstanding at third.
It's Email Tuesday. We'll get back into the emails. We've been sidetracked a bit from here and there. Ask.themarlins at fox.com. Chris Dickerson at the plate. We get emails from Gainesville all the time. This one is from Alex. Tommy, do you think Freddie is trying to battle-harden Matt Lindstrom into being an effective closer with the 2 late-inning appearances against the Mets several games ago? P.S. Good job in keeping the discussion up through the late innings last night.
I think every outing for Matt Lindstrom is just progress for him.
Out in the air to center field. But I think Alex is on to something there in the importance of Sunday's appearance by Lindstrom against the Cubs.
In Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a safe situation. The Marlins were down in the bottom of the 8th, and Freddie brought Lindstrom in just to finish that inning. But he wanted to give him some work because he hadn't worked in the entire series, and that was to keep him sharp so that he would be effective the next time he pitched. And the next time he pitched was last night.
And he had a 1-2-3 inning. And I thought threw his breaking ball as well as we've seen this year.
And we've seen what happens to Lindstrom when he hasn't thrown for 4 or 5 days.
Some closers are okay that way, but I would say over the years most like the work. The more work they get, the better they are.
Sally from North Lauderdale is begging to see the amazing Amezaga play since it's the Cinco de Mayo.
You know what? Good question on this next road trip, because we go to Denver and then we go to Milwaukee, would be to ask Trevor Hoffman that same question. And I would think he would answer that. More work, the better he is.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask him about the amazing Amezaga play.
No, he'd probably like to see it too, though.
4-0 Reds. It's the 6th inning, the Coors Light 6th inning. Watch this catch in left field.
Or was it?
Chris Dickerson. Freeze it! It wasn't. Ugla was robbed. It was a trap. It's a trap, Dan. Get out. The Frostbrewed Coors Light freeze can. That's a tough call. I mean, you look at the play in real time and it looks like a catch, not until you freeze it. You see it was a trap.
Well, and that's the difficult call that an umpire has. Both second base umpire Laz Diaz, third base umpire Chuck Merriweather, they have to make it instantly.
Marlins are going to pinch hit for Volstead, to the end of the row for Chris. And here's Brett Carroll. And we chronicled his plight last night, being a replacement, a defensive replacement specialist so far. Smokes that ball hard down the third base line. You know, for a regular player, you can see when he's coming out of a slump, he hits a couple balls hard, and then all of a sudden gets a couple hits the next night. With Carroll, you have to judge him almost, instead of by the game, by the week.
Yeah, and that's really how you have to approach the kind of play time that you get when you're just coming off the bench and doing what he's doing. Not easy for a young player. You see guys like Ross Glode, Wes Helms, they adjust to it a little better. Plus, Glode and Helms have gotten that start occasionally, which certainly helps, because then you get the 3 or 4 at bats.
And that'll be a challenge for Freddie is to try to find a game or two where he can get Carroll a start and get him 3 or 4 bats and maybe get his bat started. Because as you saw last night, sooner or later you're going to need his bat somewhere along the way. And he delivered last night with a single that almost won the game, were it not for a diving stop by Brandon Phillips to keep the ball in the infield. And so Carroll gets the pinch hit against Volquez, and he's trying to knock the rust off against a guy that's got a 93, 94 mile-an-hour fastball with movement and a deadly changeup.
Yeah, not too easy to do. You sit over there on the bench and you watch and see what he's throwing, and then you have to go up there and try to deliver.
Boy, only 66 pitches. There's the off-speed pitch, and it's popped into shallow left. Hairston is out there, and he makes the catch. Email question. Alfredo from Miami. Tommy, if a player dives for a ball and it lands on his back, does that count as a catch?
If he catches the ball, then no matter how you land.
Right. Well, no, the question is if he dives and the ball lands on his back and it doesn't.
As long as it doesn't hit the ground, yeah.
You're right.
It's a catch.
You can use everything but your hat. Right? You can't use your hat.
No, you can't use it. What was it not too long ago? A ball got Went up a guy's sleeve.
Yeah. And by the way, the news on Rick Ankiel is better than it appeared last night.
Yes, it was. That was good to hear.
Been released from the hospital.
And he made the catch in his collision with the wall.
Jordan from Coral Springs. Ryan Zimmerman has a 23-game hit streak going. What's the longest hit streak by a Marlin player in Marlins history? That's I was not around for that. You were. Bonifacio takes outside.
Exciting. Luis Castillo. It was one of those things that the ball club wasn't playing real well, but it was fun to come to the ballpark every night and see if Luis Castillo could continue the hit streak.
Here's the pitch to Bonifacio.
35 straight. And if my memory, and I challenge this often, my memory, but I believe the night it was broken, he was hitless, but he was on deck when the game, and I think it was Tim Raines, hit a sac fly to win the game. And so the game was over, so Luis Castillo was on deck, and that was it. The streak was over.
Here's Baker. You sold it well, like it's right.
Yeah, I think that was. The more I started talking about it, the more that it started to come back to me.
I can text Boog if you want. I'm sure he remembers.
He remembers all this.
Baker at the plate. Bonifacio's at first. And Volquez throws a strike. And it's 0-1. By the way, the interesting thing about Zimmerman, who had 2 hits today, is that game was suspended after 11 innings.
But the statistics count.
And the score of that game was 10-10.
That was the seesaw battle with a big seesaw.
Wow. 10-10, and they played 11.
So Zimmerman's streak now 23.
Bonifacio's at first, 1 out here in the 6th. Baker went after it, and it gets to the screen. And so Bonifacio's in scoring position on a wild pitch. But it's strike 2.
Looked like a changeup that certainly got away from him. Unfortunately, Bake committed to it, but Bonifacio got to second base easily.
Pitch misses outside.
I think one of the real keys for Volquez tonight, as you watch him, he's had excellent control. I mean, he's walked a couple, but when he gets out of whack, he loses sight of the strike zone, has trouble throwing strikes. But tonight, control of the fastball, changeup, went back to back on changeups there, 2 in a row to Baker. And again. So 3 straight changeups. That gives you an example of how he feels about that pitch.
Two outs, our poll question. Which road trip would you most like to go on? Philly, New York, Toronto, Boston, San Francisco, Arizona, San Diego, and Los Angeles. Well, what's wrong with Colorado and Milwaukee? How come that didn't make the list?
What about Pittsburgh, Cincinnati?
Hanley now has doubled and flied out.
And Rich, I was checking the temperature, so don't forget to pack a sweater vest or 2.
You know, we've had numerous emails about that, and oftentimes I just let those lay because we'll have plenty of time in Colorado. And it might be a little chilly in Milwaukee, even though they may close the roof.
Even though you're inside, it's still chilly getting inside.
And they have that milkshake machine in the back of the press box, too.
With all the accoutrements that go along with that, too. Just like the batting circle.
It's a, you know, if you are on a diet and you're a member of the press, Milwaukee's not a good place to go because they have the brats back there, with the special red sauce,
the special secret sauce,
and the milkshake machine.
With the hot fudge and the sprinkles, marshmallows.
Bonifacio at second. Volquez has been tough. His defense has helped him out considerably tonight as well.
Yeah, a few of the balls that the Marlins have hit well, they have gotten a couple of base hits, but there have been some good plays. But there have been a lot of at-bats where you just haven't seen good swings.
Daniel in Lake Worth. Long game last night. The longest game ever, he believes, was 26 innings. But he wanted to ask Tommy, what was the longest game you ever played in? And who was the opponent? And is it true that a major league inning cannot begin after 12:59 a.m.?
Yeah, that changed over the years, especially with the unbalanced schedule. You change that because now you only have teams coming to your town one time. Not sure of the exact longest game. I remember a long doubleheader, though.
Hanley swings and misses.
Second game of the doubleheader didn't start till about 12:30. Yikes.
Colorado this weekend, Friday through Sunday, we'll be there. Hope you join us. Always fun at Coors Field. You want fun? Let's go to Milwaukee. Let's see if Bernie Brewer and Ryan Braun and Prince Fielder and all those Brewer fans will be there. Let's see who's going to win the Sausage Race. It was Chorizo by a nose.
You know, I'm looking, Milwaukee's on the road, but do you think if Milwaukee was at home tonight, they'd let Chorizo win on
Cinco de Mayo?
Cinco de Mayo?
That's a great call. Hayden Penn.
Hey, the last time we saw Hayden Penn, it was at his best. 3 terrific innings at Wrigley Field, gave up just 1 hit, no runs. Marlins a 6-1 loss in that game, but he threw the ball as well as he has as a member of the Marlins.
Edinson Volquez, Willie Taveras, Jerry Hairston, and Hayden Penn with a curveball that misses high. Volquez is 1 for 2. So Penn takes over for Volstad. Snapped off a great curveball. We check in with Craig Minervini. Craig?
Thank you very much, Rich. It is Cinco de Mayo. Several fans here. We're going to put them even in a more festive mood. There you go. And you want to take that? All right. The big party was set up. You set up this party?
Yeah.
I don't believe it. This guy's 9 years old. They're from Plantation, Cinco de Mayo here. Good Marlin fans. Go on, fans.
I'm the biggest Marlins fan ever. Yeah. Hanley Ramirez, best player ever.
Now, what's so special about the Cinco de Mayo this year?
Oh, it's just so much fun. It's amazing.
All right, well, that's very well put. All right, Cinco de Mayo. Be sure to grab some ice-cold Corona or Corona Light, the perfect holiday for Mexico's favorite beer. And like these people know very well, relax responsibly. Does this hat look better on me or Frank? Was this the same one Frank was wearing?
I think it looked best on Bobby Dorfman last night.
It looked really good on Bobby, yeah.
Out to center field. Amezga makes the catch. And so there are 2 outs.
Go ahead.
And Jerry
Tommy
Hairston.
Hunt, Rich Walls, I love you both. Yeah.
So you guys are not forgotten here on
thanks,
Cinco de
Brad.
Mayo. I want to make sure that's his father is Greg Cody, excellent sports writer wise guy sports writer from the Miami Herald.
And his dad's real proud, isn't he?
Very proud.
Yeah,
almost as proud as my dad.
Proud moment in the Cody family.
Turn the mic off. Turn the mic off so he can stay proud. Here's Hairston. Hairston lines one down the right field line, and he's going to run a bit. Into the corner goes Ross. Hairston headed for second. Hairston around second. He'll hold right there. He thought about 3, then he looked up and said, you know, there's 2 outs.
Yep, there are 2 out. I'm telling you, Jerry Hairston, if he knows the Marlins are in town or he's in town playing the Marlins, we mentioned last year he was 15 for 27, a 5.56 average against the Marlins. Tonight, playing it short because Alex Gonzalez has a little tweak in that oblique muscle, had to come out of the game last night. Well, Hairston has 2 hits. He's 2 for 3, and he scored a couple of times.
Marlins want no part of Votto, but Phillips is no bargain behind him. And we dive back into our emails. Rich and Tommy, Marlin fan here in Orlando. Always follow the fish. 2 questions. Wondering how you and Tommy felt about this. I know Logan Morrison is injured, but when he comes back, do you think he might be a good move to call him up if Cameron Maybin is still struggling and put him out in left field, move the outfielders around?
Well, first of all, once he gets back, he was hit by a pitch, second or third game of the season. He's got to get some playing time, and he needs a year in the minor leagues. And I think from what we saw and in talking to the coaches and to Freddie, they love Logan Morrison, his swing and the type of player he is, the approach that he has, very hard worker. So I'm sure if not this year, next year sometime we could see Logan Morrison.
Second part of his question, Brent Sickbile. Would Sinkbile be better served for the Marlins if they made him a reliever, and might he be able to help the bullpen this year?
That's tough. That's always a tough decision an organization has to make, especially with a guy who has always been a starter. But there comes a time that you have to make that decision, and if you're a young pitcher and you realize that's your fastest track to the big leagues, then you accept it and go for it.
So it's Phillips now with runners first and second, and Penn trying to keep it at 4-0. Phillips fouls it back.
I want to comment a little bit on the job of Chris Volstad tonight. It wasn't his best game, but again, he finds a way to keep it reasonably close. He did give up 4 runs, but he got 6 innings. And the problem tonight is that the Marlins just haven't been able to solve Edinson Volquez. Unfortunately for Chris, 3 walks, 2 of those walks scored. And that seems to always happen.
Of the 4 runs he gave up, 3 were earned. He struck out 5 and gave up 7 hits.
So it's going to be 18 straight games that a Marlins starter does not get a win.
Two and 1. Good fastball. And it's 2-2. Reds and Marlins just for 2. 4-game series awaits these 2 clubs in September.
So the Marlins have the Braves coming to town
for 2.
Yeah, the Braves are in Atlanta trailing the Mets right now 2-0 in the 7th inning. I think Atlanta trying to solve Livan Hernandez tonight.
Yeah, Levon, 6-hit shutout right now in his 6 innings. Full count, runners will be on the move. There they go. Here's the pitch. There it goes. Deep left field. I mean deep left field. Down the line and gone. Brandon Phillips, I know it's just a 2-game series, but he certainly is enjoying his stay in South Florida. Goodness.
He's not going to want to leave. I mean, he has played his usual Gold Glove defense. His 3rd hit tonight. He has 6 RBIs in the ballgame. High fastball right there. And as soon as he hits it, puts the head down, he knows where it's going. One more little peek just to see if it got to the upper deck.
Into right field, a base hit by Jay Bruce. So Brandon Phillips is 3 for 4, 6 RBIs. And here is Adam Rosales.
And he was on Marlins Live, talking about his defense, talking about his club.
There's a strike. Jason from Weston with this email. Yesterday I was at the game for all 14 innings. But in the power alley I saw someone putting the cues up over the side on the railing. My dad and I were arguing what they stood for. He said it's for quality outs with runners in scoring position. Rich and Tommy, is Dad always right?
Not in this case.
Throw to first. We'll explain when we return. Brandon Phillips with a 3-run homer, and the Reds have stretched their lead. Edinson Volquez is one of the big stories in this one. The 25-year-old right-hander out of the Dominican Republic has been nailed.
Yeah, the game summary of this one, all you have to do is show Edinson Volquez and Brandon Phillips. Phillips has tied his career high with 6 RBIs, got 2 on that base hit there, and then picked up 3 more with a big blast last inning off Hayden Penn. So 3rd time in his career, Brandon Phillips has had a 6 RBI night.
7 runs, 10 hits for the Reds. The Marlins have just 2 hits. And here is Cantu. And just to answer the question about the cues, those are for quick outs. Whenever a Marlins pitcher gets an out on, what is it, 3 pitches or less?
3 pitches or less.
Well, Jason, Dad wasn't right in that case.
But more often than not, he is.
Geico quote of the night comes from Jorge Cantu, who put in motion the play that won the game last night. We need 9 guys to win a ball game regardless. That's how we look at it around here. We don't see one player better than the other. And that, of course, yesterday coming after he was named National League Player of the Week as well.
Volquez just 25 years old. And this is why the Cincinnati Reds, I think, will hang around for a while in the National League Central, and they could get to postseason. Johnny Cueto, Volquez. We saw Harang last night. Bronson Arroyo, Micah Owings. That's their starting 5. It's a pretty good starting 5.
It's Email Tuesday, and what Email Tuesday wouldn't be complete without the angry emailer? Tommy, I blame you for the defense. I blame you for the D-League Grand Slam. Myself, a friend, are convinced whenever you say something, you always jinx it. Please let Rich talk when someone is doing well. Now, come on, Matt.
Hey, Matt, I guess I'll just go home then and not talk anymore.
The dreaded broadcaster's jinx. Like we have anything to do with what goes on the field?
Yeah.
Come on, Matt. Shake yourself.
Shake yourself. Get real.
And I remember the whole sequence. And had you not said something, I was going to say something, because the Marlins had given up 4 grand slams.
Hey, it's a fact. We're here to present facts and information, as well as entertain at times.
I always am amused by when a pitcher, say a pitcher's got a no-hitter going through the 5th, the 6th, or the 7th, and he gives up a hit, and you get an email saying the guy got a hit right after you said he hadn't given up any hits. How could you say that he hadn't given up any hits, and you jinxed it, and he lost his no-hitter? Of course, the emailer never sends anything after the 6th inning when you say he hasn't given up a hit, or the 5th inning, or the 3 times in that half inning where you've said that the pitcher hasn't given up any hits. Lee came to the plate. Tommy said Marlins had given up 4 grand slams. And bang, just like that, Lee hits one out. Volquez stumbled off the mound on that delivery, and the Reds catch their collective breath to make sure their young starter's okay.
Yeah, I was talking to Dusty Baker, and that's one of the things he feels good about his starting staff. He actually said that he would like to see his club play better defense. Well, they are tonight, that's for sure.
Uggla's sitting on a 3-1 pitch, and he fouls it back.
Boy, there's the good fastball, and it's a 3-1 fastball, but it's just a perfect pitch. So Volquez has, for the most part, made excellent pitches tonight.
Full count. Uggla takes his walk. Volquez has walked a couple. Reds bullpen hasn't stirred, but this might prompt them into stirring around.
Yeah, first signs of some little wildness. Here comes Dick Cole, the pitching coach of the Reds.
Back to our emails. Brendan from Orlando wondering who was the MVP for the Marlins in the World Series in 2003. Who's the MVP in that World Series?
Josh Beckett.
There you go.
Anytime you pitch a World Series winning shutout on the road, you know, I saw the manager who made that decision to pitch Josh Beckett in that game. Saw Jack McKeon tonight. He's in town. He's gonna go up and see Andrew Miller pitch tomorrow. He's gonna pitch in a Florida State League game. Get a chance to see some of the players. He kind of follows the minor leagues around, checks in on the young stars.
And on Thursday, remember it's a noon game, Jack will be on Marlins Live. So 2 early mornings for Jack.
He gets up early.
Early to see Andrew Miller pitch tomorrow. What is that, a 10:30 start?
10:30 start.
What time's the pregame show? Volquez just missed.
Jack said he still gets his 2 or 3 mile walk in all the time. Looks good.
A double and a strikeout for Hermida. And that's just foul. Tim in Fort Lauderdale. Do the umpiring crews stay together all season? Or, in other words, are these 4 guys that are umpiring tonight always on the same crew?
For the most part. There are times during the season when the umpires will get a vacation. And when they take that week's vacation, a substitute umpire will come in, and he'll be a part of that crew. For the most part, they stay together. They do change up every once in a while.
That is strike 3. Fans, make plans to bring your summer camp out to a Marlins Camp Day in 2009. Camp Day is Wednesday, July 1st. Marlins and Nationals at 12:10. Tickets start at just $6. Call the Marlins Group Sales Department at 305-626-SAVE.
I think there have been instances, Rich, in umpiring crews, if the league sees fit, Major League Baseball sees fit, to maybe change up a crew, they'll do that. But for the most part, they stay together. Because they work as a team also. Mike Riley, the crew chief of this umpiring crew. And so they have to get to know each other.
And as well, umpires get vacation time, so you'll get other umpires that will mix in with the crew.
And these umpires, by the way, a lot of time, this makes sense. Sometimes I've seen it not this way. With the Braves coming in for just 2 games, this crew will be here for that series as well. So that just makes sense. And they got to get their picture taken, and they got to meet Regis last night too.
Did they really?
Yeah.
The men in blue.
Regis was down in the umpiring room.
The umpiring room, if you've ever been in one, it's an interesting place. It's a mini locker room, and each umpire travels with a big case that has
it's huge.
His home plate equipment. You know, the shin guards, chest protector, mask, all of that. And the guy that's working home plate is kind of treated like a starting pitcher that day. You know, if you're working the dish or whatever they call it, you go through a different routine than on days when you're not working home plate.
So tonight, Eric Cooper got in his dish routine. So Tom and Rock, who take care of the umpires downstairs,
they help rub up the baseballs.
They rub up the ball. These guys are well attended.
It is a grueling profession. I know people say, well, yeah, but they're only working 3 hours. But all the travel that's involved.
They do not fly on team charters.
No. They fly commercially. And you try going out on your front lawn and standing in the hot or the cold, wherever you live, for 3 hours and just stand there.
And paying attention.
Closely. Ross strikes out. Volquez walked the first 2 and has struck out the last 2.
Yeah, and all of a sudden with the strikeouts, he's just made some perfect pitches. A fastball that just gets that inside corner. He's made 2 good pitches to get the strikeouts, Hermida, and that one there to Cody. Next pitch for Volquez. This next one coming will be number 100 for him tonight.
And nobody has budged in the Reds bullpen. There's a strike. Matt, the angry emailer, just shot us another one and said, Tommy, can you...
what did he shoot us?
Can you please say Volquez is getting into rhythm and looks great? Maybe you can put on a reverse jinx.
I was waiting for the Marlins to get the bases loaded. And then I was going to say, well, it's time for the Marlins to turn the grand slam trick.
I think Matt's email also reflects that he's not mad at you, Tommy. He's just frustrated that the Fish are down 7-0.
You know, we all get that way, Matt.
Rich and Tommy, have there ever been any players that have become umpires? That's from Gary.
Yeah, there have. I don't know if they were big league players. I think there were a couple old-timer guys that eventually got to the big leagues. Remember Paul Runge, who's a longtime family. Ed Runge's dad and Brian Runge, his son, now an umpire. Well, Paul Runge played minor league baseball, I believe.
Well, how about the Wolves? You've got Randy Wolf, who is pitching in the big leagues. Jim Wolf, his brother, didn't play in the big leagues, but played growing up. I mean, I think all umpires played baseball growing up. It just they haven't been able to get to the major league level as a player, so they figured they'd give it a shot as an umpire. Meziga rolls over on one. Phillips. Marlins done here in the 7th. Going to the 8th. Too much Edinson Volquez. The game with Just for Men. Hair color. Bob Costas. Here's the pitch. A breaking ball that misses inside from Hayden Penn.
You know what I was just thinking, Rich? In a game like this, and late in the game, you used to see this occasionally, not a lot, used to see it occasionally. Let's say you had a starting pitcher who had been struggling, and this was his work day. You'd see him, maybe his day to throw on the side. You'd see him come in and pitch an inning and just work on some things.
That's in center field. That's a base hit. You know, it was interesting the other day in Chicago when Lou Piniella was talking about rosters and how he was kind of handcuffed by the fact that Ramirez was out of the lineup and he was carrying so many pitchers. And he was hearkening back to the days when he played with the Yankees and the Royals and how they used to carry, 9 or 10 pitchers and then 15 position guys. He said that he really believed that you could go back to a 4-man rotation. But he said the trick would be you'd have to do it in the minor leagues about 3 or 4 years before you did it in the major leagues.
Yeah, it's something that since he's taken over as president of the Texas Rangers, it's something that Nolan Ryan is trying to work on in their minor leagues. Not so much the 4-day or 4-man rotation, but he's trying to extend the young pitchers in the minor leagues and not concentrate so much on just 100 pitches, and trying to get another inning right now, and then maybe in a year or two extend that, and who knows, but he's trying to do that in their organization.
Yeah, and Pinella's thought was that if you did it in the minor league organization and said, all right, starting this year, our starting pitchers are going to go every 4 days and just use a 4-man rotation, that as that group of pitchers came up in the system, that in 4 or 5 years when they got to the big leagues that you would be able to do that. Now
they'd be used to it.
It'd be interesting to see. I've heard all kinds of conflicting theories as to why pitching is different now as opposed to back in when it was a 4-man rotation. The fact that one argument was that pitchers now have more max effort pitches, and back then guys weren't all out every pitch as they are now.
And because they weren't all out every pitch max effort guys, they learned how to pitch because they had to work the corners, they had to learn breaking balls, breaking pitches, and it was different. And I know, and you and I both have talked to Jim Cott about that a lot.
Sharp single to left off the bat of Ramon Hernandez. It's always one of our favorite nights of the year. It's dinner on the dime. It's not really at night. It's kind of afternoon into night. But it's after the Dodgers and the Marlins game this year on the 17th of May. And it's dinner on the diamond. You want to be there. For tickets, call 305-626-6497 or go to marlins.com. And it's essentially what it says it is. After the game, they bring out music and food and all kinds of games and stuff for the kids out there in right field, and it's dinner on the diamond.
It's fun to see the fans interacting with the players who are there, the players and their families come out. So yeah, it's one of the fun events of the year. And I know that Nancy Olson's always there. And if you maybe get Nancy over the corner, she can give you a few bowling tips.
Oh, Volquez bunting fell over.
He looks like he's okay.
He may have stepped on his bat.
Look at that. He got the job done. He got the bunt down. He just didn't get out of the batter's box. Let's see what he steps on.
No, he just
fell over. He just got his cleats caught.
But you know what, though? At least he rolls out of it.
Look at that.
And he's athletic enough not to get hurt.
Yeah, that's a nice bunt. Back to the pitcher. And both runners advance.
There's something to be said for an athlete who, when you catch your spikes or feel that you're rolling that ankle, you kind of roll with it so you don't get hurt. Here's Taveras. Oh, excuse me. No slight to the McDonald family.
Yeah, pinch hitter Willie Taveras is going to take the rest of the night off.
Darnell McDonald with the infield in. Hanley cuts off the ground ball.
Yeah, that's a tough one for a runner at third. Hanley made the play, and a lot of runners will be going on contact, but when you're at third, it looks like that ball was going to go right back to the pitcher. So the runner at third base, Chris Dickerson, he kind of held his ground. Hanley took a peek at him and got the out.
So there's 2 outs, and it is Hairston. As you look at Dickerson at third, Hernandez is out at second. Back to the email bag. Brian in Queens with Ameziga hitting the 240s, Hermida in the 230s, Ross in the 220s, and Maben hitting 208. At what point do the Marlins make a move and either bring up an outfielder or trade for an outfielder?
Good question. Very good question. Because you can't continue on that way.
I don't know that. I mean, I think the apple or the prize of the Marlins minor league system right now, Mike Stanton, probably isn't ready.
Still a little too low. He's at Jupiter now in the Florida State League and still hitting.
Penn gets a strike.
Michael Stanton last night, 3 for 5, a couple of doubles and a triple.
But the jump from A ball to the big leagues is a huge canyon to jump over. And oftentimes, if you do that with a prospect, you can do more harm than good. But I don't think it'll be long before we see him. We had an emailer asking about Logan Morrison, and he's injured and hopefully back soon.
And that's the exciting thing about the Marlins organization right now. And we saw it in spring training. Lots of young, talented position players.
A swing and a miss. Down goes Hairston. Hayden Penn works through the 8th. Marlins down 7-0. Follow along with this. Pencils out, erasers ready. Erase Willie Taveras in center. Put McDonald in. Erase Bruce in right. Put Nix in. Okay. Anybody else? I think we're okay.
Yeah, that's all right. McDonald pinch hit last inning.
Oh, wait a minute. Scratch out Hayden Penn and put Ross Glode in.
These are the at-bats that are always really tough for an extra man, for anybody really. You're down late in the game because concentration is so much a part of this game, and it's the hardest time to concentrate in these situations. And the veteran, Ross Glode, good concentration and a nice swing.
Be interested to see how the Reds handle Volquez here because he's over the 100 pitch mark. Yeah, he's cruising with a shutout. And he went 8 innings his last time out.
Well, he had, you talked about how he started last year, Edinson Volquez. He had a stretch starting about mid-April that took him to mid-June where he had 12 consecutive quality starts. That's keeping your club in the game every time you go out there.
Here's Bonifacio. We have an umpiring rules question from Boca Raton. Bonifacio with a high fly ball, right field. Lance Nix is over and he makes the catch. Michael from Boca. Rich and Tommy, today my school lost our regional game in the 5A tournament, and we had an awkward play that the game hinged on and caused a huge dispute. We had a runner at first and third and one out. Batter hits a hard grounder back to the pitcher, who fields it cleanly. Okay. Runner got hung up between third and home and got into a rundown. Runner from first came all the way around to third, and the runner in the rundown also went back to third. Both runners were standing on the base, and the catcher tagged both runners. And I'm 99% sure that in that case, pitch misses outside, one of them is out. But the umpire called them both out. And instead of having a runner on third with 2 outs and our number 3 hitter up, we were out of the inning. What is the correct call in that situation? You got robbed. Only one of them are out, right, Hut?
Yeah, the man who originally occupies the base, it's his base.
So the guy that came from second to third is the guy that's out. The first guy that was on third is safe.
Now, unless the other guy stepped off the base. The guy who initially had the base stepped off.
Well, we have time for an addendum if that emailer is still awake. Time now for the Jaguar Performer of the Game. Easy choice here. Brandon Phillips has had a busy night. That was an RBI single in the third, a 2-run single, or rather a leaping catch there. This is the 2-run single, and that comes in the 5th. And then in the 7th, a 3-run homer. Add him up, 6 RBIs, more great plays. The new Art Performance vehicles at your local Jaguar dealer or on JaguarUSA.com.
Been a terrific 2 games for Brandon Phillips. Had 21 home runs, 78 RBIs last year, but the year before, in 07, was his big year. 30 home runs, 32 stolen bases, 94 RBIs. Kiko Calero comes in, and well, you start talking about some of the real bright spots in the bullpen, and Kiko Calero has been one of those.
He gets to face Joey Votto with a slider that misses low. Votto has walked 3 times. Once intentionally, has an RBI single. Scored twice.
Boy, the number that jumps out at you in Kiko Calero's line is the opposing batting average of 136. Good control, comes in and throws strikes.
Change up, and it's popped back into the seats. I'm curious now about that play with the 2 guys at third base.
Occasionally you will see that if the guy who was occupying the base, if he jumps off the bag, and you see, that's why a lot of times infielders will tag both guys.
Right.
But you have to stay on the base.
Yes. So Michael, if you're still with us up in Boca, let us know how that happened. Did one of the runners step off thinking he was out?
Yeah, that's what
happened.
happened.
The other guy
sometimes.
was safe. Lined into the gap.
Boy, this guy can hit.
Over to cut it off. As Meziga, Votto's got another hit. He's got a couple on the night. And the Reds continue their onslaught. This question from a trucker. Do you think the Major League draft is flawed by the way it is set up? Certain teams won't draft players due to signability, thus they don't get the best player. Isn't the draft organized so that the worst teams get the top picks so that they will improve? For example, Steven Strasburg is rumored to want $15 million to sign since he's a Boris client, and the Nats may pass on him.
I totally agree. I think there should be a cap on the money when you draft guys. Not necessarily during the season for players, but I think that email is absolutely right. And because of that, a lot of teams don't draft guys because they feel they can't sign them. And so thus they don't get the best player in the draft.
And the Nats didn't even draft their pick last year. And I think now if you don't sign your pick, you get what? Another pick in the first round the next year, or 2 picks?
Yeah, but if you can't sign them, that doesn't do you any good. That just means that pick's going to go to the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Dodgers, or teams that can afford to pay that X amount of millions. So I think there should be a limit on what a first-round draft pick can get. If he's good, he'll make his money down the road.
Do you think that's something that will be examined in the next basic agreement between the owners and the players?
I think it will. I don't know if it'll change, but I think it should be looked at.
I think if you ask the veteran player, I mean, if it's up to the major league players right now, I think there'd be some players that'd be okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Because they see
okay with the suggestion to have a limit.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, because they see some of the draft picks making that type of money, and they haven't put in their.
You get all these demands. You get, okay, I need a major league contract. I have to have this. I have to have that. Guy hasn't even stepped on a professional field, let alone a major league field. Hasn't even stepped on and played a professional game.
And would you agree that this is the sport of all the sports that the draft is the most inexact science of any of the sports, in that, you know, being a first-round draft pick in the major league draft is not the same as being the first-round draft pick or a lottery pick in the NBA or a first-round pick in the NFL.
Absolutely.
More of a crapshoot. Now, the kid from San Diego State seems like a surefire thing, but you've heard that said about a lot of guys.
You know, yeah, I mean, you look at a guy, they say he throws 100 miles an hour. Fine and well. He blows it by college hitters. He's going to have other stuff, too, to blow it by major league hitters, because they'll catch up to the 100. The next question you ask is, max effort guy, how long is he going to be able to throw 100 miles an hour? Can he pitch? Does he know how to do that? So there are a lot of things that go into it.
One advantage I think this kid has over a lot of others is that his head coach is a Hall of Famer.
And he's
Tony
probably
Gwynn.
talked to him a lot about things like that, yes.
And Gwynn has purposely protected him and made sure that he pitched only once a week, has not overworked him, because obviously,
which some college coaches do.
Tony Gwynn knows a good thing when he sees it, especially on the mound, and he's done a nice job of protecting him.
That's a good question. That's a very, very good topic.
And Mike from Boca just emailed back that both runners stayed on the base and they were both tagged on the base.
Well, only one should be out there.
Sorry to break that to you, Mike, but thanks for hanging in there with us tonight. I got an email from Corey in Cooper City, but it might as well be Hank in the Bronx. And the email is, hey, Rich and Tommy, because of what happened to Zambrano in Chicago, you think the National League should have a DH just like the American League does?
No. No. I think the American League should have the pitchers hit and play the game the way it was intended. Everybody play.
That's a smash, and that's fair. Inside the line. Headed towards third. Votto will hold there. And Lance Nix has himself extra bases.
Well, Nix coming in to get an at-bat, play a little outfield, replacing Jay Bruce, and makes the most of his at-bat with a solid swing.
Jason from Weston, thanks for answering my question. My dad said that's one of the only times he's ever been wrong about something to do with baseball. Thanks for your help. He was asking about the cues. Check swing. And Rosales is out. Cantu steps on the bag. Our Toyota trends for tonight. Though this game doesn't look like it's headed to extra innings. The Marlins are 4-1 this year, and they're 20-12 in Freddie's 2+ seasons. It's a pretty good mark. I mean,
a lot of those extra inning wins are, not all, but it's the way you position players, manage the game, and I think that says a lot for Freddie.
I think the way, it's interesting. How do you judge a manager and how he affects the game? Because people, the glaring one is...
You need to read the manager's Bible.
The glaring one is pitching matchups. Did you bring this pitcher in to face this hitter, and did your pitcher get him out? What pinch hitter do you use in this position? Do you bunt? Do you run? And a lot of times it's subtle moves. When do you bring a guy in? When do you not bring a guy in?
So much as knowing your personnel. You bring a guy in because you feel he has a better chance to get a hit off this guy.
With 2 outs, that ball is going to take Hermida into the corner. And Jeremy makes the catch. Marlins down to their last swings in the ninth. 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO by Tobacco Free Florida. For more information, visit us on the web at tobaccofreeflorida.com. And by Dodge. Grab life by the horns. It's hard to read and dance at the same time.
Nothing like a little flamenco or a little mariachi music with some salsa and chips and
Where does our producer John Sulcer get stuff like that?
Well, he's a man about town, so he knows where all the happening things are. Nick Massett comes into. It's very interesting the way the game has gone with Volquez 8 shutout innings. Edinson Volquez has never pitched a complete game, so obviously he's never had a shutout. He only had 2 complete games in the minor leagues, but the pitch count was up, and Dusty Baker knows it's a long season, and he elects to bring in Massett.
And Massett promptly goes 0-2 on Hanley Ramirez. If Nick Massett looks familiar, it's because the Marlins saw him briefly last night. They saw everybody last night. Weathers, Rhodes, Massett, Burton, Lincoln.
Yeah, Volquez 110 pitches.
Herrera.
And I think sometimes you're tempted as a manager. 110 pitches kind of is one of those tempting numbers to allow Volquez to go out and maybe get the complete game shutout.
Hey, we won't see him tonight, and the Reds are leaving after this game. But I saw a note on David Weathers. His next appearance is going to be the 906th of his career, and that's going to tie him with Cy Young for 19th on the all-time list. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. You get your name right there next to Cy Young. It's kind of neat.
I'd like to get one of those Mr. Red patches. Is that the evil Mr. Red or the happy Mr. Red? Cantu takes outside.
Oh, the patch on his sleeve.
Yeah. I mean, there's 2 Mr. Reds. Cantu. A couple hops for Hairston. By the way, we have not heard any update on Alex Gonzalez, who was headed back to Cincinnati last we heard to have the oblique examined. Speaking of injuries.
Yeah, everybody gets hurt. This is Mr.
Including
Red.
this Mr. Red. Watch out! Oh!
We forgot to warn the kids to turn away.
Now, he's all right.
He got a neck brace. He's okay.
They put a little ice on it, gave him a neck brace. You know, in a 7-0 game with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th.
Yeah, there's nothing like physical humor.
You got to bring out all your material because it's a 2-game series, folks. If this were a 3 or a 4-game series,
We'd hold back.
Absolutely.
Because the Marlins do not see the Cincinnati Reds until September 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati.
Rosters will
Expanded.
undoubtedly expand and maybe change for both sides. You never know.
Absolutely, by then, yeah. And it'll be interesting to see where Dusty's club is at that time and where Freddie's club is.
Oh, 2 to Ugla. Check swing. Didn't go. Mike Riley says, I don't want to end the game that way.
Can't end it that way. Ugg's a good guy. See, Mike Riley's going to be behind the plate tomorrow, too, in that Derek Lowe-Graham Taylor matchup against the Braves tomorrow night.
For those of you that are still with us, we've got a treat for you. On Marlins Live, since it's Cinco de Mayo, we will show the amazing Amezaga play. How about that? Swing and a miss. Ugla goes down. And the Reds win it 7-0. They shut out the Marlins. Cincinnati getting their 4th shutout in the last 7 ball games. Impressive stuff. Marlins Live is coming up.